You struggle in your relationships because you lack boundaries. Boundaries are essential. And it's something that a lot of us haven't been taught to do. And if it's something that you've never really gone out and reached out for coaching for, you'll struggle with this. So I'm going to be sharing with you guys 3 principles of boundaries to live by, which will massively improve your life. I'll share some funny stories. We all go home. It's a great day. So let's begin. Let's start off by defining what exactly a boundary is. So a boundary is something that highlights and differentiates where you end and where somebody else begins. So it highlights what I am responsible for and what somebody else is responsible for. It's a differentiator. So when you go out in physical life, like in the everyday world, you've got many different boundaries in front of you. So a good example of a boundary would be a fence. So when you're going down the street, you see a fence, right? And the fence protects and encompasses somebody's building. So when you see a specific fence, you know that, within the confines of this fence is Brandon's house. So you can see Brandon's house, Brandon's garden. This is all his. Outside of that fence are the things that Brandon is not responsible for. So you may have next door another fence and there'll be another house. Brandon doesn't look after those things. Doesn't have anything to do with him. Now, using that same metaphor, within the confines of your fence are the things that you are responsible for. So for example, you've got your fence, metaphorically speaking, and within the confines of your fence are, your time, your finances, your goals, your dreams, your ambitions, your energy levels. These are all the things that you are responsible for, the things that you are down to take care of. Now, of course, with any fence, what you can do is, of course, you can open up your fence and you can allow people in and you can give them and share with them some of the things that you are responsible for. So you can give people your time, you can give them a little bit of your energy, you can share some of your finances with them, right? And at the same time, you can close the fence. So when somebody comes in and tries to take some of these resources from you and you don't want to give it, you can be like, no, I'm locking the fence. You cannot come in and you cannot take any of my time. I'm busy. Now, problems normally occur in relationships when somebody starts either interfering too much with the things that you are responsible for. So they start taking too much of your time, or they're taking your finances over and over again. Or 2, they've let you into their fence and now they've made you responsible for the things that they should be taking care of themselves. So for example, you've gone in and they've invited you to try help them out emotionally, but now they're like, I don't want you to leave, and they latch onto you and they begin to emotionally drain you. So you're busy there supporting all the time. When you're taking too much or when you're giving too much, that's when problems normally begin. Somebody's taking too much from you, or you're in a position where you feel like you're giving too much. So I'm going to share with you 3 principles that will improve this. So principle 1 of boundaries, building healthy boundaries, is understanding this law, understanding the law of sowing and reaping. Now, what does this mean? What this means is that you must allow people to reap the consequences of their decisions. So every action has an opposite reaction. Everything that you do has a consequence. Now, sometimes you can be in a situation where you're surrounded by people who you keep rescuing, they keep making poor decisions, and you keep saving them, but they never learn. It could be somebody who's like financially irresponsible. Like they always ask you to borrow money, you borrow them money, then they squander it, and then they'll come back to you like, please bail me out, please save me. The problem with you saving people from the decisions that they're making, the poor decisions, is that they never learn. You're stopping them from reaping the consequences of their actions. You're interrupting the process of sowing and reaping. Give you an example. I remember when I was in school, I was an intelligent kid, but I had an attitude and I was a little bit lazy. So I remember there was this one specific test that we were going to do. My mom wanted me to do well. So she was like, Josh, I want you to study. I want you to shine, my boy, shine. So she was trying to get me to study and I just wasn't having it. I'll be slamming doors. I'll be like, no, mom, don't tell me what to do. I can do what I want. I'm grown. So my mom had enough and she was like, all right, do what you want. It's always a bad thing when a woman tells you to do what you want. So I did what I wanted. So I play on the PlayStation, FIFA, Crash Bandicoot, hanging out with the boys. Ha ha ha, such a great time. Right? And then exam season came. I'm not prepared. So I walk into these exams, I get the results, I don't do as well as I should have, and then I end up in a set that's far from ideal for me. So the next year I'm in this set and I don't belong there, right? So in this set, I'll sat next to this person who just be continuously passing wind. They would fart. Every lesson they'll be passing wind. They'll be like, farting all the time. And I remember they had hot breath, so they'd love to talk, so they'd be talking to me all the time. It was just torture. I was there like, God, why? And then there was another guy in my class. So we'll call this guy Kevin. So Kevin's in this class. And Kevin never brings his textbook. So my teacher starts taking my textbook and the teacher gives it to Kevin. So Kevin's got my textbook now, meaning I have to share with this person who's always farting and they've got hot breath. And I suffered. For a year, I suffered. I look at my mom, I'll be like, oh, and my mom was like, nah, I done told you and you didn't want to listen. But that year I worked hard, and the next year I was in top set. I was in top set for everything. I finished straight A student. The only A I got was in German. The only grade that I got that wasn't an A was in German. I got a B. Everything else was straight A's. I worked hard and I learned my lesson. But the only reason I learned my lesson was because my mom allowed me to reap the consequences of my decision. She didn't rescue me and bail me out. And that's what you have to do for some people. Some people are better off when you have to allow them to allow their poor decisions to run its course, because when they experience that pain, they will change. If you interrupt it, they never change. They continue to be the same. Principle 1. The second principle, see, I've got my book out. Now I'm being real serious. The second principle is this, is only give what you have purposed in your heart. So what does that mean? Only give what you've purposed in your heart. So that means only give from a place where you feel like it's a hell yes, when you really, really want to give. Now, normally you can be in a position where you think like, I want to be a good person. I want to help people out. I want to be there for them. I want to support and be there. But it's important that you remember in the back of your mind that people don't need you in a nice way, like not in a cruel way, but people don't need you. People don't need you to save them. People can save themselves. So think about it this way. If somebody comes to you and they're like, please help me with X, I'm struggling with my emotions, please give me some time, help me. And you're in a position where you're a little bit drained. Understand this, if something was to happen to you, like let's say you got involved in a car accident and you were hospitalized and you're unconscious, they would find somebody else. They would figure out their problems. They don't need you specifically to fix their problems. Now, when you remember that in the back of your mind, it makes it significantly easier to say no. Now, if something's not a hell yes, your automatic response should be a no. You should only give from what you've purposed in your heart. You should only give when it's a hell yes, when you're sure, I'm happy to give. I'll give you an example. I remember I used to work at a specific role. I worked many different jobs, guys. I've been in the trenches. So I worked at one specific job and they were always short on staff, all the time short on staff, people would be leaving and that kind of thing. And I remember I worked like 7 days in a row and I was like, all right, it's time for me to take my break. So the night before the shift, it's like a Tuesday or whatever. Wednesday is the next day. The night before, somebody contacted the manager to tell them I'm sick, I'm not going to be coming into work. So my manager gets in contact with me and they're like, Josh, please, I need you to be here. We need X amount of people to open up the store, you know, and we're lower numbers. Will you be happy to fill in? So I was like, I don't really want to, but I need to help him. I kind of like this manager. This manager's cool. So I show up. Wednesday morning, I'm there, and then guess what? More people have called in sick, and it's just me and my manager opening up the store. I can't believe this. So there's just me and my manager, and I'm thinking, surely she's gonna close the store. It'll be all over. We'll all go home with happy days. Nope, the store opened. She opened the store, and just me and my manager. I'm managing the tills, the stock room, menswear, women's wear. I'm doing everything. Just me and my manager. No help came, and I learned that valuable lesson. You know what I mean? People can figure things out. The show will always go on with or without you. They'll figure out, if I had called in sick, my manager would have opened up the store by themselves. They would have done it by themselves. They didn't necessarily need me there. And there I was burning myself, tired, thinking I worked 7 days in a row. Nobody cared I was working my 8th day. Nobody cared, right? And I felt a type of way simply because I gave from not what I purposed in my own heart. It wasn't a hell yes. I thought, oh, it's a little bit of sympathy, I'll help them. And guess what? I'm the only one who suffered. So you don't want to be setting yourself on fire to keep other people warm. Remember that. People don't need you to fix their problems. They can fix them on their own. If you're unavailable, they'll figure it out. Principle number 2. So don't be afraid to say no. If you struggle with saying no, the first thing is say, let me get back to you. You can always say that one. The third principle is the law of respect. Now, a lot of people think that when you're struggling with boundaries, it means that you struggle to say no to people. But the other principle, actually, the other issue is not being able to take the no of others. So you must be able to respect the no's of others so that they can also respect your no. So a lot of people struggle with this. So for example, let's say you ask somebody to do something for you. Please give me a lift to thingy. It's on the way, you know, just give me a lift. I know I'll do the same for you. And they say no. You can begin to feel a type of way. You'd be like, why would you say no? I'll do the same for you. I'm on the way. Why would you do that? See, that's a boundary issue. I know it's a little bit messed up. Why wouldn't they give you a lift? Come on. But the main thing is this, going with the example. If you can't take the no from other people, then you lack respect for them, and you know what I mean? And unreasonable for you to expect them to respect your no. You have to give that respect back. It goes both ways. So if somebody says no to you, it's fine. Let it go. Don't push that boundary, because even if you do push it and you're like, please do it for me, they'll do it, but they'll do it resentfully. So they'll do it and there'll be an undercurrent of resentment towards you. People will like you more if you can take the no from them. So those are the 3 principles of boundaries. So post number 1, the principle of sowing and reaping. Allow people to reap the consequences of the decisions that they're making if they're continuously, being careless. Number 2, only give from the principles, or only give from what you've purposed in your own heart. So if it's not a hell yes, say no, or say, let me get back to you. So you've got time to think. And number 3, the law of respect. So take the no's of other people so that they can